Beautiful. Oh, would you be mad if that wasn't recording that whole time?
Headed to the city, girl, don't keep me waiting. Since I got this feeling, girl, I gotta chase it. Only going left, you know I cannot waste it. Gotta keep the promises I'm always making.
Hello, my friend. Today I am in Brisbane City. I'm about to go and jump on my first podcast. Honestly, I'm feeling a bit anxious, a bit nervous. Of course, it's all excitement. The story is with this, my friend Davey, he runs the #1 podcast in Australia for property. I was fortunate enough to meet him pretty early on in his journey. I remember him floating the idea of doing the podcast to begin with. And I was always there just trying to encourage him, trying to be the friend that would say, hell yeah, that's a great idea, like just go for it. And basically he stuck with it. He kept going, he did the thing. So I'm really excited for this episode. I'm really excited just to catch up with him and have this chat. Yeah, I thought I would take you along with me while I do that. So I'm just walking to the recording studio now. I got off at Roma Street. Honestly, today in Brisbane, it's a bit of a warm one, so I will check in again when I arrive. What's going on, big fella? How you going? Come here, bro. Come here. Good to see you, bro. Trav, nice to meet you, boss. How you going? Bro, thank you for having me.
I scrolled back to January 2023.
Okay.
And I said, I'm locking you in for episode 100.
I love it. I love it.
So I thought we'd talk about, like, what did I have in my notes?
Oh, nah, don't tell me. Don't tell me. We'll just straight up wing it. All right, so
Tell me.
here I am with Davey. We're out the front of the podcast studio just waiting for our time slot. Davey, how you feeling, boss?
Man, I'm feeling good. I do this stuff every week and I appreciate you making the trek out. Yeah, we had a podcast this morning, just got lunch, do this other one, and I think it's a long time between drinks and chats in real life, bro. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. It'll be sick.
Right outfits on for it too.
How you going, Nick?
Mate.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you, Kido.
Kido, nice to meet you.
Any rolling black, man.
Oh, you do you.
Aussie, mate.
Kido got the brief.
I'm ready, sir. Let's go. Where's a good spot to put this?
Sort of around the back, actually.
Okay, easy.
Also, I've got another room in there. Like...
All right, post hour 55 podcast with Kido. Man, crazy experience. I think it gave you an opportunity to speak plenty of your mind, your learnings, and what we've sort of experienced and talked about together. And man, I think there's like huge takeaways: business, life, entrepreneurship, mindset, books, like resources, like.
You mind telling them where they can find it?
Everything Property, just search Everything Property wherever you get your podcasts or wherever you went on YouTube, Instagram, anything.
Obviously, you know each other.
Yeah,
Do
a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Trav was asleep, I reckon he just nodded off. You got everything?
Yeah.
You got no charges?
Yeah, no, my bag's out.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate it,
so
eh?
much, man.
All right, so podcast. All right, there we go. Okay, so podcast all wrapped up. Now we're just gonna go ahead for dinner, get a feed, hop in an Uber now, touch base when we get there. Let's go.
Good time, let's go. What are we doing? We're out the front of Uniqlo and H&M, Brisbane CBD. We just recorded our 100th episode of Everything Property. This man featuring on it because he supported me from #1, so go check it out on all your platforms. We finished recording for the day, a couple of really cool podcasts, and we're going to go grab a feed, debrief, unwind before we fly out tonight.
Awesome. What do you think is the hardest part about doing your podcast?
Hardest part about doing the podcast is definitely the organisation and structuring of guests, finding really great guests. Have a lot of guests come each week, but like finding great guests to put on, lining them up to record, and then building out that content library is definitely the first part that I find hardest. And then probably the time and effort it takes. I think people underestimate the effort that goes into a podcast, especially having done 100 eps now. I know what it takes, and it's a lot of work. It's not like a money-making exercise and a get-rich-quick scheme. I would recommend, if you're doing a podcast, make sure you're in it because you love what you're podcasting and talking about, and then just enjoy the journey.
And so maybe somebody's watching this right now and they want to start their podcast. They got a topic they're really interested in.
Yep.
What do you think their first 3 moves are? What do you recommend?
First 3 moves is, number 1, find a authentic and original name for the podcast that relates to the niche. A lot of people name the podcast something totally different to what they're talking about. There's no SEO, there's no way I can find you. Second is start with video straight away. I would recommend good quality video, not iPhones. Invest in some sort of camera, some sort of setup. And then you want to leverage into getting great guests on. So whatever topic you pick, so for example, for me it's property, I want to find the most connected or the person in property with a really great audience to get in front of them. And essentially it's just working your way up. So you might find someone with 1,000 or 1,500 followers that's really good at what they do. Then you get them on, and then you can leverage up to someone that's maybe got 5,000. And then we had a guy on today that's got 600,000 followers and has a massive audience, multi-millionaire. You build up to that level.
So at the start, maybe I don't have the network or I don't have the connections. How do I structure my outreach? Like, what should I be saying? Can you give me some examples of how I would make those first? I would send those first messages or make those first introductions.
Great question, and that you won't have that at the start. So you've basically got to start and build a story and build a value proposition. So for me, for example, the value proposition was the really good quality, crisp video content that people got of themselves. You need to do your research on that particular guest, because if I come to you and I say, man, I'm a huge fan of that vintage Jordan jersey that you sold 3 years ago and put to auction, you're going to turn around and go, how does he know that and know that I'm the real deal? Whereas if I just go, hey, I want you to do this on my podcast, I'm making it about me. Whereas if I say, hey, I want to talk to you about that story and you're blah, blah, blah.
So add that personal touch.
Add that personal touch. You've got to do your research with everyone that you get on. I spend hours for each guest researching who they are, what they do. So when I go in with that initial ask, now they know that I'm not just every other property podcast that asked them to be on. You've got to be unique, you've got to be different. It's got to be a value proposition. So now it's obviously our following, my personal brand. We're reaching between both of those 2 million accounts every month.
Insane.
When you break down the numbers, there's 2.2 million property investors in Australia.
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
and just to reiterate, that's not how you started either.
That's not how
it wasn't always like that.
Look, if you're starting a podcast, just remember no one's going to listen to your first 50, 60, 70 episodes. So just be prepared to push through that. And now only like 100 eps in are people starting to notice, and does that little, growth trajectory tick up. So strap in and be prepared for the long fight with the podcast. It's a slow burn, but I love what I talk about and the people that I get to chat with and the guests. So make sure that that's what you're getting into it for.
The man, the myth, the legend. So, Trav, what would you say has been the biggest thing you've learnt since working with Davey?
Ooh.
Mad question.
Ooh. Well, before I met Davey, I was in a part of my life where I was sort of very, very lonely chapter. So Alex Hermosi's always talking about the lonely chapter, Chris Williams. And I was doing everything by myself, getting up 4 o'clock in the morning, going to the gym, working on the businesses. This guy inboxes me. I met him and I could see his work rate. I was like, all right, his work rate's pretty good. But then as I started to hang out with him more and he's messaging me at 1 o'clock in the morning, when usually I'm messaging people at 1 o'clock in the morning and he's up too, it was just like a perfect timing sort of thing. Sometimes the universe just puts people in your way right when you need them. So I think he elevates me, I elevate him in different ways. I think working with Dave, just work rate means different things. Some people, their version of work rate is working 9 to 5, and then other people's version of work rate is 5 to 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was always seen as crazy, like, why are you working so hard? You're going to burn out. Like, that's silly, like it's never, like it's not going to go anywhere. And then finally you meet other people that are doing the same thing, and like, no, I was right all along.
Yeah.
There's just not that many of us doing it, so that's why not many of us reach that level. That's what I've learned the most.
So, maybe there's somebody who's going to watch this and they're currently in that lonely chapter. They're putting in work, they've got this gut feeling that they're onto something. What would be your message to that person that maybe hasn't found their people yet, but yeah, what would you say to that person?
I'm going to specify this to people that are like 22 to like 28, because that's the period I went through, 22 to 28. You've got to remember, everyone your age is just finishing university. They're getting their first jobs. Their parents are telling them you need to stay in your job, you need to save up for 15 years, buy your house and pay off your house when you're 65, and then finally go on holiday after 65. If you don't want that life for yourself, if your brain isn't like that, don't expect everyone else to be the same way. So when you're trying to tell them your dreams, you're trying to tell them what your goals are, and they sort of look at you in a weird way, that's not their fault, and that's not your fault either. But just know that the people you need that are also thinking that way are doing the same thing as you. They're grinding. And you're not going to meet them until you're at a later point, which for me was like now, 29, 30. But from like 22 onwards, when I was working on the businesses, I'm very lucky I had my brothers, but besides that, I had no one. So if you're in the learning chapter, if you're grinding, just be patient. Like all things take longer than you think. The people that you need to be around, they're doing the same thing as you. You're going to link up later for sure.
So I guess on the days that you don't feel like doing the work, or days where you wake up with low energy, where does your mind go to? How do you stimulate that energy in order to keep going, keep moving forward, and keep working on the things that you love, even if in that moment you don't love it?
There's two things I do. One, I think about when I was homeless. So I was homeless when I was like 18, 19, and I think, do you want to go back there? And instantly it's like, no, I don't want to go back there, so I work really, really hard. And then the second one is actually a scene from Transformers when Shia LaBeouf is telling the other guy, like, when he finally sees the Transformers and he's complaining about it, Shia LaBeouf's like, this is what you want. Like, why are you complaining? Stop complaining. This is exactly what you wanted. I've always wanted this. I've wanted late nights, early mornings. I've wanted all of this, so why am I complaining? Can't complain. You asked for it, don't complain. And that's it.
You alright, Jay? Oh, that's it.
All right, sir. Bye, guys.
Appreciate it, bro. See you, man.
Safe travels,
Next
all right?
time when you're sitting.
So that pretty much wraps up today's video. Special shout out to Trav and Davey. Thank you for allowing me on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and all your effort in organizing everything. I've got to jump on a train and head home now. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask away. Otherwise, I'm Kido, and I'll see you on the next one.